The Encyclopaedia Britannica defined cyberpunk as a science fiction subgenre characterized by countercultural anti-heroes trapped in a dehumanized high-tech future. Cyberpunk as a genre dates back to the 70s and was widely popularized by the 1984 William Gibson novel Neuromancer, which revolves around computer hacking, artificial intelligence, and a dystopian future, common themes of the genre. Since then, there has been a steady flow of cyberpunk in popular culture, from cult favourites to mainstream classics. In 1982, director Ridley Scott envisioned a future that perfectly defined a cyberpunk world in his adaptation of the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? With Japanese subculture at the heart of Blade Runner and Gibson's novel, it wasn't too hard to imagine that cyberpunk could so easily be embraced by Japanese writers and audiences. And for one Japanese 19-year-old, Blade Runner's distinct visual appeal would be an enlightening experience. This 19-year-old would become one of the most respected and influential names in the video gaming industry. 1988. Enter video game developer Konami, hot on the heels of their previous success Metal Gear on MSX2. Now 25, writer and director Hideo Kojima embarks on a new project, a detective-style graphic adventure game set in the dystopian future of Japan. Kojima brings to the table mature themes, a rich and detailed world, political commentary, a soap opera love triangle, and a classic science fiction storyline. He combines these, throwing in a pinch of humour and an immense sense of dedication, to create the definitive, self-proclaimed cyberpunk adventure. Snatcher is released in 1988 on the PC-88 and the MSX2, and will see several ports and upgrades to come on PC Engine, PlayStation and Sega Saturn. The version I want to concentrate on though is this, the Mega CD version, perhaps Snatcher's finest hour. So what makes Snatcher such a classic? Well, many things. Firstly, there's the plot. Okay, here goes.
June 6, 1996.
It's the near future, at least from the game's point of view, and the Cold War is still in swing. In a secret laboratory under the Kremlin, a deadly engineered virus is accidentally released into the atmosphere. The virus is codenamed Lucifer Alpha, and leads to a worldwide epidemic that kills over 3 billion people. Flash forward 50 years to mid-21st century Neo Kobe, enter our story's protagonist, amnesiac Gideon Seed. He and his wife Jamie Seed, who also suffers from amnesia, are picked up in the Siberian neutral zone and given a new start in Neo Kobe. Haunted by dreams about Snatchers, murderous biological androids whose crimes have gained recent media attention, Gideon applies to become a junker, a special branch of enforcement that deals exclusively with the Snatcher menace. This is set up in an impressive prologue all before the game opens. It's your first day as a fully qualified junker. You're tooled up and paired with a robot helper called
I am Metal Gear Mach 2.
Metal Gear? That's a pretty weird name.
which anyone who's played through Metal Gear Solid 4 may recognise. Before you can meet your partner, Jean-Jacques Gibson, you are called to an abandoned factory where you find a brutalised body and chase off 2 Snatchers, and this is where the investigation begins. The gameplay is simple enough adventure fare and essentially boils down to examining the surrounding environments for clues, moving around varied sets of locations, interviewing a range of characters via a branching menu structure in order to unlock more options, locations and conversations to progress the plot. So the gameplay mechanics were never going to win any awards, but it's functional and easy to get to grips with, which is important in immersing you into the game's detailed atmosphere. The Mega CD version includes arcade-style light gun shooting sequences that take advantage of Konami's Justifier gun released on Sega for Lethal Enforcers. These sequences are sparse, but in several occasions are integrated seamlessly with the plot, like shooting a gun from an assailant's hand, or offing a Snatcher that you thought was already dead, and hey, it's miles better than QuickTime events. The world created by the designers is just so rich. There's even a supercomputer at Junker HQ called Jordan that you can basically use to find out things about the future history of the world, culture, politics, sort of like the internet. They don't even bear relevance to the game's narrative. They're just a nice inclusion. The use of Metal Gear's video phone as well to call up in-game characters, especially as if you see a telephone number advertised on a billboard, say, you can call it. These little nuances are common in video games today. The Darkness even had telephone numbers you could dial in it. But for a game of this age, it's really something special.
Oh, is that you, Gillian? I was just getting to sleep.
Graphically, Snatcher is an achievement. Many of us console owners were caught up in the Nintendo vs Sega debate of the late 80s, early 90s. And as good as those machines were, you never really experienced a true adventure game. For many gamers in 1994, when the Mega CD Snatcher was released, video games looked like this. Thanks to CD media, Snatcher looked and sounded like this.
They were looking to snatch every VIP at the summit.
Quite simply, it was in a different league, capable of making a more captivating world. The Mega CD was also the first localization of Snatcher, with English voice actors pulling off convincing characters. Without spoiling it, the ending is nearly an hour-long cinematic, for God's sake. And this is one of the first times that a resolution to the story has been told, as the original MSX version of the game was released without the final act present due to time and storage constraints. The game is for the majority uncensored. It's got a few frames of animation excise, but it's way more graphic than the later sanitized versions on the other consoles. And I don't want to even watch the attempts at early CGI intros on the 32-bit systems. I'm not going to lie, the design of Snatcher owes a lot to Blade Runner, wow, a hell of a lot. The buildings, the turbo cycle, even the box art. The Snatchers themselves look like the T-800 from Jim Cameron's Terminator films.
Too bad for him that he
But after a few hours gameplay you realise that these similarities are mainly superficial, and the majority of the game does have its own unique style. I suspect aspects were cloned from Blade Runner on purpose, either as a homage, or maybe to bring in a sci-fi audience. It's obvious that Hideo Kojima is a movie buff, as his works often show more than a glancing nod to Hollywood movies. So if you're thinking of buying Snatcher, be aware that it can go for upwards of 60 squids on eBay when it does surface. It's not particularly rare, but it is a sought after item both from collectors and retro gamers. It has a cult status and reputation, and a lot of people just want to see what all the damn fuss is about. I do recommend it look seriously. This is my personal favourite. Everything is just pulled together so cohesively. Now Snatcher had a semi-remake in the form of Snatcher SD or Super Deformed, which basically took Snatcher's plot and slapped it on a turn-based RPG engine, while making all the artwork into that freaky chibi style with big heads, small bodies like the Thunderbirds or whatever. Snatcher had a spiritual sequel in the form of Police Noughts, but this was never released outside of Japan, so I can't fairly comment on it. Anyway, it's not a proper sequel, it doesn't continue the story, which is a shame. Don't get me wrong, the end of Snatcher was completely satisfying, but it does leave open threads to continue the narrative. From what I can recall, Snatcher on the Mega CD didn't even sell too well. Not like Kojima's modern games anyway. And probably why the Saturn and PlayStation ports weren't released in the English territories. That makes the Mega CD version the only time when it's been officially translated into English. So why didn't it sell? Well, arguably it was a game that was already 6 years old, and in video game terms that's a lifetime. Not that most people in '94 would have known Snatcher's history. It's just that the game engine itself doesn't lend much interactivity, which would be fine if it was released on a PC, but it was released on Sega. Okay, Sega was famous for colourful, fast-paced reaction testers like Sonic, Ristar, Gunstar Heroes. Detractors from the game, and there are a few, would say it's too easy and it holds your hand throughout the entire adventure. Well, poos to you. Whatever, maybe, but it's probably more to do with the fact that the Mega CD wasn't selling, and that's probably Sega's fault, because they thought, let's push full motion video games. Oh, we've got this extra storage space, let's use it to put shitty video clips in games. The PlayStation and the Saturn were to hit Japanese retail outlets the same year. At the end of the day, would you have bought it? If I said to you, you want to play a detective game on Mega CD, you'd probably go, this game just plain stinks. I'd rather fuck a cactus. When the Wii was released, there were talks of a new Snatcher project on the internet. Anything has yet to materialise, but I'll live in hope that they can revive this beast, maybe in the remake trend that video games have had over the last couple of years. Snatcher as a third-person action adventure? Fan wank. Okay, now let me digress to tell you a true story. In 1994 I was a teenager who'd just managed to procure a Mega CD from my sister's boyfriend. He chucked in all the games he had, but as any buyer of a new piece of hardware, I wanted to get something brand new to play on it. found one of those old mail order ads in a games magazine, probably Sega CD Pro or Mean Machine Sega. I had the cash for 2 games from their new Sega CD stock, any 2. So I called them up to make my order. The first choice was Earthworm Jim Special Edition, being somewhat of a Shiny fan. I was disappointed to find out my second choice was out of stock with their supplier, so on the fly I had to pick a different game from their list. That second choice was Snatcher. Later on, when trying to bolster my Mega CD collection, I managed to get hold of my original choice, which is actually quite hard to find these days. Here it is. Yeah, it's shit. Snatcher gets 5 1-up mushrooms out of 5.
Thank you so much for
Watching
my
video.